Hi, everyone. Welcome to Your Virtual Coffee, the web show which introduces you to great local businesses in the Denver metro area. Today, my guest is Mike King, founder and principal of 5280 Sales Solution, LLC. He is partnered and powered by Sales Xceleration and provides fractional VP of sales and sales consulting services to small and mid-sized businesses. He brings a wealth of sales management and leadership experience to the Front Range of Colorado and works alongside business owners and CEOs to help them get sales back on track. Mike, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Gina. Great to be here.
And I would like our audience to kind of get to know you a little bit. So how long have you been in Colorado?
So I'm in my 15th year. So this summer will actually be 16 years, loving every minute of it. Before I moved here and just got here, people would say, "Where do you live?" I live in Denver. And they're like, "Oh my God, I want to move there. I love Denver." So I'm in line here and hope to stay here for a long time.
Now, where did you move here from?
So prior to here, it's a couple corporate moves for me and my previous life, if you will. I was in Atlanta for about 5 years, and then Texas a little bit before that for about a year, and then I born and raised out in California on the West Coast.
Oh, what part of California?
So Northern Cal, East Bay, if you're familiar with it. So think of across from San Francisco. Was born in Alameda and grew up in San Leandro and finished high school in Pleasanton, which is a little farther east out in the valley. So big Northern California sports guy. I'm an Oakland Raider fan. Tough to be one here in Denver. I should say Las Vegas Raiders, but since they've moved there now. But so I've got to keep kind of a low profile. But that's I've been a fan since I've been about this high. So lots of roots in Northern Cal.
Interesting. So you suffer in silence for your football team.
Yeah, it's been a long period of suffering, so for sure. But yeah, you just got to kind of be cool customer and just kind of mind your P's and Q's here in Denver. So you don't want to be too boastful being a Raider fan around here. So
That's true. Usually if I hear someone is from, they went to school at a particular place, I always ask about college football. But pro football, we don't normally have a discussion, so this is kind of intriguing. To shift gears a little bit, in your bio, it mentions that you're a fractional VP of sales and that you offer sales consulting businesses. Could you talk a little bit about that, what that entails?
yeah, you bet. That's the crux of my business. There's some other things that I focus in on, but a majority of my client engagements fall into those two buckets: fractional VP of sales services and call it project-based consulting, sales consulting. The fractional VP of sales is kind of a unique position out there. You hear a lot of fractional other roles, CFOs and CMOs and COOs. Sales Xceleration is a Inc. 5000 firm that I'm associated with, and we're the world's largest fractional VP of sales firm, really in the world, but really predominantly in North America. And we work with small business owners and really helping them get their sales turned around. And the role we play in a fractional role is we take over that sales leadership chair. And a lot of times the owner has been doing it, or the CEO has been leading the sales efforts, and a lot of times not very effectively because they've got 16 other hats that they're wearing, right? And they just don't have time to effectively manage, run, coach a sales team. So when we engage with them, we just have a very deep conversation about their business and their pain points. And they kind of throw their hands up. They're like, "I'm at a tipping point. I need somebody to come in here and really run my sales team and really build out my sales structure." So that's what we do in that capacity. It's a longer term engagement. Generally speaking, it's a year agreement that we engage with, and sometimes they can go longer. Again, it's all about the needs of the client. And then we really take over that sales leadership chair. So we're working on coaching and training up the sales team. And then while we're there, we're also builders, right? So if they've got gaps in that infrastructure, We're helping them with hiring the right talent. We're working on their comp plans for their sales team, building out their sales process. What's that? Yeah, you ask, what's your sales process like? Walk me through the time you get a prospect or a lead to a close, and they kind of, well, I don't know. We just kind of do what we do. So we help them build out that and the sales planning. How's the team executing out there? Do they have metrics and quotas, and build in accountability measurements and discipline into what their sales team's doing day in and day out? So it's pretty broad what we touch when we're in that role, but it's generally speaking, it's a 1 day a week engagement, and we're part of the leadership team, if you will, for the company, just in a fractional role. So we're sales coaches and executors, but we're also building out that sales infrastructure at the same time.
Now, Mike, are there different sales techniques or trainings for business that sells product versus services, or is the technique basically the same?
Really good question. I think our approach is we're industry agnostic. So we feel that when a company is in a position where they need some help on the sales side, that the basic fundamentals of sales, the blocking and tackling, apply to products and services. Because at the end of the day, it's all about having the right product or right service positioned with the right value prop to the right clientele, at the right price. And that's really the sweet spot of where, sales success happens. And that's really what we focus in on. So we can work on the service side of the business or the product side, because at the end of the day, the fundamentals don't really change that much. It's really, again, finding that right solution at the right client and the right channel, at the right price, and making it happen, and this continuing to rinse and repeat over and over again.
Your firm offers a free assessment on the website. What criteria does that use to provide the best feedback?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that we feel is a great part of our engagement, on the front end of our engagement. So naturally, we have a discovery process. We're going to want to understand the business, really understand the pain points. Why are we chatting? What brought us to this conversation today, Mr. CEO or Mrs. Business Owner? What's keeping you up at night? And we use this sales agility assessment as a way to really peel the onion back on their business. And it's useful in that it's a 48 question assessment. It takes 15 to 20 minutes to complete. And it really dives into 4 major areas. So it goes into sales strategy. So think, hey, what's your industry positioning? What's your value prop for your business? What's your competition like? Gets into sales methodology. Do you have a CRM tool that you're using, like a HubSpot or a Salesforce? Are you using it? Or are you not using it? Is your team using it? What's going on with it? And then it gets into sales structure. What's the sales training look like for your team? How's your team aligned to the market? Things of that nature. So it's very robust. And at the end of the day, it spits out a report. Basically, they get a score, and it's a score from 0 to 400. So we bring back an executive summary for them and show them how they perform against other small businesses that have taken the same assessment. So there's been thousands of other companies, small to mid-sized companies, that have taken this assessment, and it's a bench. So we show them where they scored versus the average starting score, and then kind of what best in class looks like. And it really helps us prioritize a scope of work and really say, you're doing great here and here, but boy, you've got some room for improvement here, here, and here. So it really opens the eyes of the owner up, and the CEO, or even the leadership team, because a lot of times we'll have the whole leadership team take the assessment and get scores back from everybody. And a lot of times there's this divergence in scores, right? The CEO is saying, hey, we're great here, but everybody else is like, saying something completely different. So it's a good way to bring alignment to a leadership team and kind of go, hey, we got a problem here, gang, because we're kind of doing this, and we need to fix this particular area of our sales process or our plan or strategy. whatever it may be. So it's a good tool that we use on the front end. Again, it's something that I offer as a free really consultation, and just it's a great way to have a conversation with somebody, and it's super effective. So it's been well received in the marketplace.
Well, it sounds like different in perception can be something that really can hurt a sales performance for a company. If you have, right, if you have the CEO that perceives it as being successful in this way, but then you have the actual salespeople saying, not so much."
Right.
And that's where you kind of come in and say, we all need to align under this, because
Yeah.
this is what the facts, this is what the records state. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And, for example, where there's a small business where it's the owner or the CEO is leading the sales efforts, but they don't really have that time necessary to really inspect what they expect from the sales team. It's kind of eye-opening. So they may feel that, something's not going very well, but the sales team thinks they're doing great. So, well, let's look at the facts. What's exactly happening out there. Again, kind of peeling back the onion. Well, tell me about your sales process. Tell me, what are your goals? What are your metrics for the quarter? So we dig down and really find out what's going on. And to your point, to get everybody on the same page, because if everybody's not rowing the same direction and on the same page, um, it makes it very difficult to make positive change.
So speaking of positive change, Mike, what is that issue that keeps your ideal client up at night, and how do you solve it?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's a lot of commonalities, and there's never just one issue, but the ones that we hear most often from a owner CEO about their business, they're generally at a tipping point. They know they need to do something on the revenue side of their business, because maybe sales have stagnated, they've declined, they're declining, maybe they've lost a significant customer. Um, they've got sales turnover. They just can't find the right salespeople. They're just in a bit of a rut, right? And they go, and I got to do something. I just don't know what I need to do. So that's where we come in and take them through that sales agility assessment and really define where they're at on their whole sales infrastructure, that I talked about earlier, and really have a robust conversation about, hey, here's where you've got some major gaps in your company, on the sales side of your company. And that's where we come in and really build out a very detailed scope of work, based on the priorities that they need. Not everybody needs the same fix, right? So it's custom to their needs. And we work off that scope of work. So again, if it's either a project consulting agreement where it's more a shorter term, or we actually go in and take over that sales leadership chair, we're still building out that sales infrastructure, their compensation plans, their onboarding plans for new people, their sales process, their sales execution, metrics and quotas, and the reporting that they need to effectively manage their business. So that's what we do. So we build out a foundation, a robust foundation, while at the same time, managing and coaching their sales team, getting that foundation built so that the sales can start turning around and going in the right direction, and they're built to last and built to win for the long haul.
Mike, I want to talk about power partners. And for our audience, power partners are those businesses who target your ideal client, but are not your competition. An example I like to use is a personal trainer and a hairstylist. Those both target people who want to look good. And so those two can refer clients back and forth because they're not in competition with each other. And it's a really great tool to build those relationships with your power partner, so that it's another referral source. And it's usually a referral source who understands why that ideal client needs you. Now, Mike, who is your ideal client?
Yeah, and thanks for defining that power partner because it's so very important. And I think those are critical relationships in the small to mid-sized business community. Absolutely, and they, long-term in nature. There's mutual education about what you do and what your business does, so you can. It's a give and take relationship. So it's super important. As far as my ideal client, it's B2B, small to mid-sized businesses. So in revenue terms, think of handfuls of millions, 2 to 3 million in annual revenues, maybe up to 50 million in annual revenues. I'm pretty industry agnostic, so I'm not really zeroed in on any specific vertical in the marketplace. I can work with pretty much anybody. A lot of times, what we hear is stagnating or declining sales is a trigger for us. They don't really have a sales plan or process. The owner, the CEO, is leading the sales efforts, but not very effectively because they've got too many hats they're wearing and they don't have the time to do it. Um, they have sales turnover issues. They can't find the right salespeople. They keep burning salespeople. They just keep hiring salespeople and turning them over. And a lot of times they may not have the right person in the sales leadership chair. A lot of companies take their best salesperson and go, congratulations, you're now going to be our sales manager. Well, those two people and skill sets aren't always the same thing. So we see it all the time, and it's a natural thing. But great salespeople aren't always your best sales managers. They're great salespeople for a reason. They're highly motivated. They love the chase. They love the hunt. They like to chase the commission payouts and the whole thing. But managing, coaching people, developing people, it's a whole different skill set. So that's what we find a lot of times. And then just companies that they don't have to be even declining in sales or their sales have stagnated. Maybe they're growing like a rocket ship, but that underneath them, they don't have the tools, the resources, or the right people in the right chairs, so to speak, to allow that business to go on. It's kind of a house of cards, right? They're maybe have started a business that's on a great product, but then all of a sudden they just kind of go whoop, and then but underneath them, like, well, how do we get from 5 million to 10 million? They kind of go wham, they're just there. Then all of a sudden, how do they scale that business? Well, they don't have the right infrastructure built beneath them, the processes built out to allow them to take that next step in their business journey. So hopefully that resonates, and that's a lot of times what we hear as far from an ideal client perspective. That's where we fit best.
So I'm thinking, Mike, as far as power partners, people in those fractional spaces just like you. So people who would complement you. I'm thinking people in the fractional CEO, COO, in-house counsel, CFOs, people who provide those fractional services in the same way that you do, but in different areas. See, the chief, the fractional chief marketing officer, for example. Would those be good power partners for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's because if you think about it from a sales perspective, as a fractional VP of sales, or if you're in another fractional role, but especially in the role that I play, you're touching all parts of that business. You're engaging with marketing, you're engaging with finance, you're engaging with manufacturing or the supply chain team, or depending on the size of the company. But so you're seeing all this. You're seeing the other functional groups, and at the end of the day, sales can't be done as a standalone. You need the support of all the groups, right? You need a good marketing partner within the company. You got to have a manufacturing arm that can make the product, or a supply chain team that can get that product to the customer. So everybody kind of works together for sales success. And that's where you see opportunities to bring other outside expertise into a company. I'm going to stay in the sales box, in the sales lane, and do my thing. I'm not going to try to be their CFO or their chief marketing officer. I'll provide input on marketing initiatives because sales and marketing work so close together. But at the end of the day, I'm going to stay in my sales lane and then recommend power partners to come in and say, hey, you really need to bring this person in. They can really help us out, get us over that next hump in the sales journey.
Well, Mike, what is the best way for these businesses to reach out to you?
A simple phone call is great for me. My mobile number is 303-229-7447. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find me also on the Sales Acceleration website, salesxceleration.com. Those are probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me, and would look forward to any engagement or any conversation that comes up from that.
And that free assessment is also on that website, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that is, and that's something that there's a shorter assessment that's free, and then if somebody's really wants to have a deeper conversation, I'm happy to email them a link to our more robust sales assessment that we discussed earlier, and have that conversation with them about their business and kind of where they stack up against like companies, like other small to mid-sized businesses, and really just have a conversation, even if it doesn't lead anywhere from an engagement perspective because of timing or budget, or just, they're not ready to implement the changes maybe that they need to make. But it's just a good, great piece of information to give them an idea of where they're at and maybe where they need to work on some things to improve their business and their sales prospects.
And would you share your email address?
Yeah, it's mking at salesxceleration.com.
Perfect. Mike, any last thoughts?
No, I really wanted to thank you for this has been great. Just the conversation's been awesome. Great questions. So thanks for not going too hard on me, but it's been a fun experience, and look forward to a great year. And thanks again for your time.
Mike, I appreciate you coming on my show. And audience, thank you for joining us today on Your Virtual Coffee. We could not do this show without you. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. At Your Virtual Coffee, we love business owners. So business professionals, let's talk. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Your Virtual Coffee is sponsored by Ventola Law. Ventola Law, mediation and legal representation at an expert level. You can find them at ventolalaw.com. Thanks for joining me today. For more information on Your Virtual Coffee, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and wait for it, our website at yourvirtualcoffee.com. Thanks again for watching, and have an incredible day.